Alright, so I'm hoping that this will work. I'm going to start recording this session. I have to move things around, so my screen is going to go wonky for a minute. Also, I'm showing a character sheet to a player right now. I'm logged onto the Discord voice chat. Let me make sure that I've got him, so let me unmute. Hey, can you hear me? Oh, you know what? I might have push to talk. Hang on. Yeah, control space. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't realize that I had push to talk enabled. Alright, so here's what I've got going. I'm logged onto the table. I'm logged onto this voice chat. I need to shift my table around a little bit so I can see my screens better. But I'm going to record this too so that anybody who misses this has the chance to look back at this. I just need a couple more minutes to get this all set up. But to answer your question of what do you do now, here's what I've got going is you're actually on the table right now, but if you're in the if you log on to the the home page, the profile page of this, all you have to do is log off of this table, and then you can even run this table in a different tab if you want to be looking at it at the same time. On the front page, there's a discussion thread that says what kind of things we should consider, and basically it's just a concept for a ranger. But I'm also going to be taking player input and incorporating that into the setting as a whole, because I don't want to make something that's set on Earth in the mythos, in the trying to just copy ranger stuff. I want to make something that's new that uses all of those same themes. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, it makes sense. That's why I messaged you about it.
Cool. Okay, great. So, yeah, that list of stuff that's on there, on that discussion thread, that's the sort of thing that I think to fill in on the character sheet, and just kind of throw in whatever ideas that you want to see come into the game. I've got some ideas in the back of my mind, and I have two separate storylines in mind. One where a big portion of this, what I'm calling Hyperion Force, it's just something that I liked. I like the sound of it. A big portion of them gets lost and stranded somewhere else in another dimension, and the people left over are the ones that have to pick up the pieces and be the protectors of the zone that we know and love, a setting that we will create. And then I've got another campaign concept of the ones that get lost and stranded in another dimension. So give me a couple minutes to just get things situated here, and I'll be right back on voice.
Okay.
Alright, and so for the video, which, let me just look at it, make sure it's running. Okay, so I'm not on video, which is fine. But if I have to be on video in order to do something, I'll do it right here like that, and I'll just switch it on and off. And hopefully I won't have to do too many hopping around things. Okay. Alright, let's turn this just to help it not reflect so much sunlight from the window. And then this should be fine. I bet if I just back this up a little bit and set the chair in there, that'll be a lot better. for anybody who's wondering what all those strange screechy sounds are, that's my pet bird. He's actually out on the front porch right now. Just to give you an idea of how loud he is. Plus my microphone's pretty darn good. Alright, that should be good. I'll use the chair.
I know, right?
Bring this silly ass bird inside.
In a second, stop watching the video. And in front of your so like and you compare the size of the head now, that was long, that's huge. It's just
Alright. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can get this zoomed in a little bit without destroying everything.
why don't you
Seriously? Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, man.
Nice. Okay, so my push to talk key works outside of it, outside of Discord. Alright, so do you have any particular preference on which Ranger color or concept or anything that you have been thinking of?
I was gonna go for red, but I'm looking to see what concept I wanted to do. And yeah, Super Sentai, the Method of Multiverse sounds good. Beastland sounds good too. But orange.
Well, I can tell you right now that I put a lot of so the Nimian Beastlands is my own personal thing that I've put together. I worked with some other people over 10 years of work. In any case, I had put some little Easter egg ideas of stuff that related back to things like Power Rangers and Dino Riders and other really bizarre 80s fun, 80s and 90s. And I put those things into the setting, kind of planning them there in a very loose, flexible way and not really sure of how I wanted to implement it. And now after watching Hyperforce, I'm inspired. Like, I see what I would like to do, but I want a player group to help me build that out because I think it's much more dynamic that way. I think that the ideas end up having a lot more impact like that. So I'm willing to run the Journey to the Beastlands concept as we're going to create a universe and then we're going to walk away from it. And the only reason we're creating the universe is to have a player background. I'm calling it a generic setting. It's probably not a good way of describing it, but just something that we're going to create of us, something that's familiar enough to play with, but that isn't Earth and Earth history. Also, I apologize in advance for the bird noises, because he's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, you're fine. You're perfectly fine.
What's that?
I said you're perfectly fine.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I don't mind the bird noise.
Yeah, it gets a little loud and ridiculous at times. And then I think somebody else also wanted to play a Red Ranger, and here's why I think that this is okay. Um, I don't necessarily think that I'm an artist, all right, and so when somebody says to me red, I'm like, okay, what kind of red? Right? Dark red, light red, pink. That's technically a red, and for me, I think more about like frequency and even just the concept of like I'm a red Tyrannosaurus, I'm a red lion, I'm a red whatever. Just differentiating it in that way gives it something that you can make a unique concept out of that. Plus, I'm also thinking of like attaching the colors to like academies that are set on different worlds. So I might come from the home world, which for right now I'm just calling Altera, and I might be they might be a white academy. So you might get white, silver, gray. You might get rangers that come from this sort of spectrum of that color that define that themselves just based on the fact that that's where they come from. That's their home world academy that they trained at. And so we might have multiple Red Rangers. We might have multiple Blue Rangers. We might have a Silver and a White Ranger, and they're close enough but different enough that it doesn't, we'll work with it. The way I see it, regardless of what we end up with, we'll work with it.
Makes sense.
Alright, I gotta step away from the keyboard one more time to put this bird in his actual cage, and then I'll be set to go. Anybody else that shows up, just we're in the planning and character creation phase. People have hit me different messages, like private messages, saying, "Hey, this is what I was thinking, and this was my creature." Unfortunately, I didn't get them to like put those things anywhere where everybody can find them. So, for the time being, we have to archive. We have to make our character sheets and all that stuff.
Okay.
Also, so far, every player that joined the table should have a character sheet of their own that they should be able to edit and change and do whatever.
Yeah, I have that. I need to fill it out.
Cool. I can add artwork for like your portrait, your character portrait. I can also add in whatever token we use throwing down on the map. I probably won't use the map very much, except for just as like a visual reference for people. But I don't know. I'm gonna play everything by ear. I have an idea in mind, and I'm just gonna roll with it based on whatever players add to the mix. I'm very, very freeform and really creative, so I'm really not worried when people are like, "Oh, what route?" Especially when people start asking me specific questions about like seasons of Power Rangers or whatever. That's where I'm like, you know what? Whatever it is from that you got that you want to pull from, work with it. Go ahead and go with that. I'm also thinking that in this universe, that our advanced civilization uses a lot of technology, but probably has zero interactions with magic of any form, right? So I'm thinking that we'll be like science and technology oriented, but that when it comes to magic, magic is sort of we have no idea what to do about all that.
And how it works, stuff like that. I get it. I mean, I like that concept.
Cool. Great. And that's really all I've got working so far. I figured if I played in sort of a, Sentai Cosmic Guardian sort of thing, I would play as a ranger, maybe doing purple or black, like focusing on ultraviolet as my frequency. But otherwise, I was going to run the game Journey to the Beastlands. But if people want me to run a more, close to home, we're going to build this setting out and let's stay here for a little bit, I'll run that too.
I say it all depends on. I say we leave it up to the majority and see what they want done first.
Cool. And I am in agreement with him. He can't hear me right now, but
It's already one done. That's the one we start with first.
cool. Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement there. Let me just move this bird and I'll be back. Give me like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Meow. Hi, mirrors. Hi, my movie. Everybody on the internet's gonna know how silly I treat you, huh? Look, we'll say hello to the internet. You want to say hi to the internet? Hang on, I gotta find my mouse. All right, here we are. This is Goofy Bird. Goofy little Perry Bird. Yeah, say hi to the internet. Say hi. I'm silly. Do you like being the internet bird? Yeah. Blurbs. Internet blurbs. Blurby beards. Yeah, he's my goofy buddy. I treat him like a child, so you know what? Make fun of me, I don't care. Alright. Get rid of me. We don't need to see me. Goodbye, me. Thank you. You can make the push to talk something else. I mean, I can. I know I can. I'm just complaining that I have to use push to talk. That's all. Just complaining. Nothing big. Also, I am using tabletop audio, playing some sounds, just ambient tunes and sounds and such. There's one slight problem. Is that I can't actually. I don't have like a table to set up right here. Actually, yes, I do. We'll do it like this. This is a random stream setup kind of thing anyway, so fuck it. Fuck it, I say. Fuck it all. And Perry said she tends to say that a lot. Alright. Alright, I think I'm good to go now. And I don't actually know if I created a character sheet for myself. Let me look at that. No, I think I only created one for all the other players. Also, because I don't think I've said it so far, I'm going to be using the Fate character sheet and the Fate rules to run this for starting point. If we do any real space battles using starships, I will use Starfinder, kind of merged in together with the Fate system. Also, I was just looking to see if he had worked on his character sheet at all. I don't think any of our players have actually worked on their sheets. Which is fine. It's not a problem. I did create a character sheet for one of the characters. Yeah, oh, this is the one I was going to set up. So this was going to be my my Black Ranger, and I even, when I went looking for inspiration, I found one of the more recent series of Super Sentai that has an android that sort of looks like a Minotaur. He has a bull head and a humanoid body, and he's the Black Ranger. And I was like, Oh my gosh, that really fits a theme for me. So I was gonna have like a Black Ranger NPC that I was gonna be like the right hand man for that kind of thing, and I was gonna be a synthetic or a cybernetic person who could pass off as a minotaur. Minotaurs are like a big thing in the Nimian Beastlands. It's a big part of the setting, and so I thought that was a really cool connection of all those different things. So I did make my character sheet, Sarek Shakul, and each of these character sheets, when you create a new character sheet, it gives you a randomly generated name, and so you can change that if you want. You don't have to keep that. It's just it automatically names your character sheet for you with the random generated name.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's like going upstairs.
No,
Yeah,
that's all good. No worries.
yeah. I just didn't thought my character sheet yet. Which I need to. The character that you gave my character.
Yeah, cool. That's all right. Yeah, whatever you want to fill in, and then just let me know, and I'll just try to work in whatever I can. And even so, I was thinking that we would be like a space-based society, right? We'd have spaceships, and we'd be on different planets, and I was thinking maybe everybody might have their own home world, or at the very least, like an academy where they or their parents would have gone to school and got trained in whatever, however they came to contribute to society, and then like those academies, each of which would be sort of color coded, and maybe based on one particular home world. So like, okay, for example, the Blue Ranger oftentimes is connected to water. So I thought, in this case, it might be really cool if they came from a very watery planet. Even in Hyperforce, they mention Aquitar, which I have no idea what that is. I have not seen most of the series. I'm going to rewatch them to make sure that I'm inspired properly. But I thought it would be kind of cool to keep that connection. Just as an idea, just to put it out there as an example. So I should turn down.
Yeah, as you have heard, this is inspired by Fate. I never did a Fate phase. Character sheet.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
So actually, feel free to edit the. So there's multiple tabs on every character sheet. The first tab is just your bio. It's like a space where you can just write anything up that you want about that character. And you don't have to feel limited by the system. In fact, Fate is it's sort of like GURPS. It's sort of like, it's a generic, a setting generic, genre generic system. And the only reason I chose that is so that there was actually something in place for the table to use. If we don't want to use Fate, or if somebody puts forward something else that really works a lot better, which I don't know. Fate's very cool because it's very generic and open-ended, and you can create your own system. You can create your own way to use it. You can create your own skill sets. You can create everything from the ground up. It's also scene oriented, so that it's like every time we have a scene, that scene gets its own mechanics treatment, right? So it's like once that scene is done, that's when we kind of reset everything. I can describe it more later. I did say off mic that I'll be using Fate just as a. Basically, it's like what they do on Hyperforce, where they basically just roll d6s. Same kind of concept with this. A Fate dice as it's rolled. Oh, and I should be able to set a macro that you guys should see too. A Fate dice is just a d6, and success or failure is just based on whether or not you make a d6 roll. Oh, that's right. I remember how to do this now. You know what? I'm going to make sure that I ask my friend Dan. My friend Dan runs a bunch of Fate games. He loves Fate. He'll run any genre, any story, anything through Fate. And so I'll make sure to ask him exactly what I should set up for a Fate dice roll. Just a generic, whatever the hell happens, just roll that macro. And I'll make sure to have that on the table. I see it here, and I can put it on the thing to roll. This untitled macro roll. Oh, and it just give me that. Okay, so I'll get it set up so that we can actually roll a real Fate dice roll, which is just D6s. I think I just have to write in DF. Give me a second to see if I can do this.
Okay.
Okay, so that should now be working. There's a macro now on the table at the bottom left-hand corner that if you roll it, it's rolling a D6, or in this case a DF, a Fate dice, and it comes up as success or failure.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yep, and that's the beauty of the Fate dice. It's just a D6, and I'm pretty sure that 1 and 2 is a -1 or a failure. 3 and 4 is a 0 or basically a generic consequence. You might not hit your thing, or like if somebody hits exactly your armor class or whatever. And then the other is an actual success. So that's just something to give it that randomness so that everything isn't predetermined. But basically, I was just going to set it up like that, where everything, or like Hyperforce, where everything is basically a success or failure, and then damage with a 1d6 multiplier. I like the idea of whenever you morph and you go into your Ranger mode, you add a d6. I just like that. It's just an easy, quick way of saying, hey, guess what? We're more powerful. We're better. I like it.
I like it too. I mean, that makes sense. Think about it.
Yeah, I bet that they had to learn a lot as they were playtesting that. I bet, but it's cool. I'm glad that I've met Malika in person. She's really cool. She's really nice and fun and creative and upbeat. And yeah, I suspect
She's getting married in like 2 months. No,
Nice.
next month.
Yeah.
She's getting married next month.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, and I'm sure she put a ton of effort into that, because I remember them talking about it when I was up there I volunteered at the studio, the Seattle studio, a couple of times before they moved.
I wouldn't mind volunteering for them. Sure, I can learn some new stuff.
So, do you have any ideas for like what you would be thinking for maybe your home world, or what kind of background your character might have, or even your family, or like a faction that you might come from that has a history, something to build out the setting that you would want to see included?
Well, I got one for each concept. For the, well, I also had an idea for the beast one, but beast one will deal with magic. It can do the same thing. Well, magic users never seen technology before. How technology users never seen magic before, and how they coincide and how they cope with the fact that there's magic, there's a world of magic, and there's a world of technology.
All right. So yeah, twist the concept on its head and have like a magic-oriented people that just are like, technology, science, what? No, we ask the spirits.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking with that one. And I also had a character for the technology one. I was going to use the one that you created, the one the random one. I was going to use that for the technology one, just leave it alone. And then I also had an idea. Well, that was weird.
I heard. I also had an idea that was like, and then you cut off.
Yeah, the whole call just dropped on me. But yeah, I had an idea for the magic one. I named for my magic user, but I forgot the name. Kind of throws me off.
Well, and you can always feel free to change any element of the character sheet that I put up there. You can also feel free to change the name of the character and any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But I was keeping it since he's in the technology world. I was gonna keep it. That's why I didn't touch it. Because just to figure out the name for how I was gonna leave it as it is right now.
You could even feel free to create both of those characters and try to like figure out a way that they might eventually meet in the story. I'm totally okay with. For me, all of my stories kind of fall back to a root somewhere. And with this one, the root is inside of its own story. Like the people that get left behind in the setting that we create, cooperatively. I was thinking that is kind of its own story arc. And my Journey to the Beastlands thing is like, the rangers that go there are going to get stranded. If they get back is entirely up to the group, and they might not get back all the way. They might just like establish communications, or maybe open a temporary portal or something. But the idea is that they're kind of stranded. It's like a Lost in Space kind of thing. So it's possible for both of those characters to exist in the same story arc. So go ahead and feel free to give them both as much background as you want. Fill that character sheet out to your heart's content, and I'm going to try and include as much as I can from all the players. I'm creative like that. I like it. I also think that this means that I need to put one more character sheet up there, because I made one for me, and there's only 7, which means one of these players doesn't have a character sheet. I also haven't heard back from all the players that joined the table, and I can't be sure of where exactly I let them know about it. Like, some people are from the Facebook group, and they're not on the Discord, whereas some people are on the Discord and not on the Facebook group. So I can't be absolutely sure of of where I contacted the players. That was weird. Okay, so if he logged off of the voice chat, that's fine. It's not a problem. Yeah. Okay, so he did. He logged off the voice chat. That's not a problem. I'm going to continue recording with my voice going. I'm going to try and make sure that anybody who shows up has a chance to put their input in and all that. I'm just letting him know that it's not a problem. Alright, so I just let him know that I'm recording this. I'm going to find some way to make this video available to everyone who joined the table or who's interested in this, and that if everyone agrees and everyone gives permission, and if it's okay with everybody, that I can post it to one of my channels. Or both channels, possibly, probably. More than likely, I would post it to both. I have a YouTube and a Twitch. Basically, every time I live stream on Twitch, I like to archive it on YouTube. Look! Oh, there you go. I'm visible. Ooh, you know what? It's the first time I get to do this. This is my Scandroid t-shirt. I love it. It's great. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Setting-wise, it's an advanced civilization, right? So Time Force and even Hyperforce kind of touches on this notion that it's an advanced civilization, more than likely space-based. I mean, they have time ships, but as far as I'm concerned, that's a spaceship. So they're probably interplanetary, and I haven't been able to watch the series Time Force, Lost in Space, RPM, Mystic Force. I haven't seen any of those series beyond Zeo. In fact, I only saw a couple episodes of Zeo. I'm rewatching Mighty Morphin right now. I'm going to rewatch as many series as I can as quickly as I can. And I will try to incorporate all of that as much as possible. Like I pointed out to Demetrius earlier, that idea of an advanced civilization that's very technical, that's very scientific, and understands science and space travel and those sorts of notions, but magic is kind of off their radar. We might even have an academy at one of these worlds that does look at that and say, you know, is magic real, as a big topic of discussion, a hot topic, is magic real? And somewhere out there, maybe in another dimension, maybe in some alternate reality, magic could be real. So you would have these groups at these academies discussing things like that and talking about what could be the basis of this magical thing. And maybe just maybe, we find a world out there that has strange properties where people learn to manifest things or can communicate telepathically, maybe just based on their own physiology and their mental abilities, but maybe through some connection. Maybe it's an ancestral connection. Knowing that we're drawing from Rangers and Sentai mythos, this is a Japanese cultural genre, okay? The ancestors, the ancestral spirits, the collective power of all ancestors who have ever existed, as well as the individual spiritual essence of people who came before you, maybe even your lineage, maybe somebody back along your family ancestry. Those spirits could be the ones that help propel this mystical force forward. I'm big into culture. I love Japanese culture. I'm not as big into it as other people, which means I don't know nearly as much as I should. But I do know certain elements that are pulling directly from Japanese culture and were put directly into Sentai, Super Sentai stuff. So, I personally will try to regurgitate these elements. I will personally try to incorporate these different things into the story and into the culture as much as I can. But I do want it to have its own flavor. I don't want to make an Earth-based setting. It's been done. It's been done and done and done and done and done. As the Hyper RPG community, the Thumpers, we're creative. We like RPGs. I think that we can create our own stuff. I've done it. I've made my own setting. I've made written, published material to go along with it. It's not difficult. It's not. You just have to focus and have some ideas in mind, and don't let it get boring. And because we have multiple people being involved, that helps it to not get boring. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is possible. We can do this. It can be done. I had somebody come to me about being a Red Ranger, and then Demetrius, just in this session, mentioned he wanted to be a Red Ranger. That's possible. One could be the Crimson Ranger, and the other one could be the oh god. There's like a vibrant orangey red that's like, it's red. I mean, it's red. Anyone who looks at it's like, oh, that's red. It's really like a different kind of red. I forget there's different names of reds, and there's different names of greens, and there's different names of purples, and there's different names of black, because I was thinking about this earlier. Even black, you could be slate black, you could be obsidian black, or even a very, very, very dark version of other colors. Dark green and dark blue look just like black when you make them dark enough. Point being that we can have multiple Rangers of similar or same color, and that's why I brought up the idea of academies based on homeworlds, so that they have some kind of cultural root as they're on a planet, and that these academies would be where anybody in this civilization would have gone to school to train to be whatever they're going to be. Whatever their job and occupation would be, they would go to this academy. It would be a centralized thing. It would be like, there's one academy, there's not competing academies. The competing academies would be the different academies on different worlds. And you might even have somebody that's from the blue world. I'm going to say Aquitar. I'm just going to do that because people know what I'm talking about. A water world. And the blue academy is on the water world. It might even be in a really cool thing underneath the ocean. And then you might have somebody who grew up on the blue world and comes from a blue background, and they might go to study at the green academy to become a ranger. Maybe they become a green ranger. Maybe they become a blue ranger. Maybe they become a blue ranger, then a green ranger. Because as we've seen in the mythos, sometimes these rangers switch around. They don't have the same color. And so when we're thinking about frequencies, and and I thought about this earlier. Um, um, if you think about color more like a frequency, light falls somewhere on a spectrum between red and purple. Outside of red, it's infrared, and outside of purple, it's ultraviolet. Okay, but all those other colors are like little itsy bitsy bitsy points on that spectrum of color. So for me, when somebody says I want to be a Red Ranger and somebody else says I want to be a Red Ranger, that's not really a problem. That doesn't bother me. They come from the Red Academy. Maybe maybe one of them comes from the Red Academy. One of them is from a Red World family, but studied at the Black Academy. Whatever. It really doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. It doesn't make any difference. But at the end of this, we're gonna try to kind of we're gonna take whatever those rangers are that we have created through all of this, and as long as each one of them has something that is inherently its own, I'll try to focus on how that contributes to the story, as well as whatever player motivations that get involved. Anybody who looks at this video is now going to know a little bit more of what's on my map. So I messed that up. But that's alright. Give me just a minute here. Yeah, I'll just rejoin as a player. It'll be fine. It'll take a minute, but it'll be fine. Alright, so I'm rejoining my table. For the record, we're using Roll20.net. It has built-in video and voice chat. I don't like using it because it makes my computer overheat a lot more than Discord. Alright, so here's our map as a player sees it. I'm gonna zoom to 50%. And right now, I've got us over here, rangery kind of stuff. I can't move any of these because as a player... Oh no, that's not true. It just needed a moment. Alright, so as a player, I'm able to move some of these because they're player things. But all these evil bad dudes over here... Oh, apparently I'm lying. I didn't set something up so that it's just whoever wants to do stuff can do stuff. Alright, please don't mess up my table, guys. Please. I'm having faith in you. In any case, I've got some bad guys over here. I have created some bad guys. I have to admit, I went forward and I created an antagonist group from outside to come in and really start messing stuff up, and we're unfamiliar with them, and that's as much as I want to say right now, right? Because our advanced civilization is a peaceful civilization, cooperative. Everyone across these different planets, across these different worlds, and anywhere, maybe even on colonies elsewhere, anyone from this civilization is going to look at it as one big family, and cooperation is going to be a big deal. This is going to be essentially a post-scarcity society. For anybody who doesn't know what that means, look at how people in Star Trek behave. Everybody has a job or something that they can do to contribute to society. Nobody uses money. They don't have a need for that sort of thing, because once you give everybody anything that they could really need, peaceful society exists after that. That's what we call post-scarcity. Scarcity is the idea that there's not enough to go around, and when you have a sufficiently advanced civilization, one that maybe can create things out of nothing, then you have a situation where you would have a post-scarcity civilization. That's what I'm thinking is where we should come from. Okay, we're trying to protect and defend something that is inherently worth defending. A civilization where people cooperate and they treat each other with respect and kindness because you're all part of the same family. and one that is sufficiently technologically advanced enough to have access to these really big robots that maybe they created. Maybe. Because in the Ranger mythos, in this tokusatsu, I might be destroying that. I'm trying. In the tokusatsu genre, these really big, really powerful robots are powered by ancestral energies, and they've also been around hanging out in their hiding spots for over 10,000 years. The questions that then pop into your mind are, who put them there? Did they know that they were putting them there for this reason? And more importantly, why put them there so long ago if the civilization has to advance to a certain degree to at least understand what that is and maybe how to fix things when stuff goes wrong. But the other side of Zords, and I'll say mecha because I'm not going to use the word Zords. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. These big giant mecha, these ancestral powered vehicles that are larger than life. That's the idea, is that Power Rangers are larger than life. That if something goes wrong with them, they probably heal themselves to a degree. But what about when something goes really wrong? Rita Repulsa casts her spell and people are losing power and blah, 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 blah. Then what? You'd have to have a sufficiently advanced society to be able to cope with those kind of things. And let's say, just playing devil's advocate, let's say that somebody in the 1700s discovered the Power Coins and the Zords and took on the mantle of the Power Rangers. They probably wouldn't be able to deal with all the damage and things, but they might understand enough of it that if the Zords, the mecha, could heal themselves or have some sort of self-repair mechanisms, or it's powered by ancestral spirits. To be honest, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I just want to make sure that the story for the players and for anybody who's watching it is engaging. I have a concept. I have an idea in mind for Journey to the Beastlands. And to be entirely honest, if you want to know what that idea is, go ahead and watch the cartoon series Dino Riders. It's wretchedly bad. It's just wretchedly bad. It's just bad. It was so bad. As a kid, I didn't know how bad it was, but as a kid, you don't care. As an adult, I care, and it's bad. It's horrible. Terrible writing. It's all just merchandising. But the basic concept is they came from the future. They came from an advanced civilization, and by using technology in a given way, they oopsed and flung themselves into the past where they encountered enemies that they had just seen before oopsing. So I have an idea in mind. It can be a catalyst, it can be a campaign arc, it could be just one element of many, because I also put out there that anybody who wants to play, if you want to create like a monster or some other antagonists to go into this mix, and it could be anything. I mean, really, I've seen the bad guys from Rangers and Sentai shows. It could be anything. The last one that I saw, which was where it was kind of funny because they were kind of making fun of how wretched it was a turtle with a traffic light stuck in the top of its head, in the back of its neck, going into its shell. A turtle with a traffic light. Huzzah! Monster. Okay. So, Demetrius has logged off of my table. I'm going to shut down the video because you guys don't need to watch me for this whole thing, especially when I've got all that glare happening. You're all like, oh my god, you're making me seasick. This is going to be what the table will look like at the startup. I'm going to throw more tokens down for every ranger that's present. And for right now, I'm just using these words. I'd like to make our own words. That's why I called it Hyperion Force. Not because I want it to be called that, but because it sounds cool and it has its own. Plus, I realized later, I'm like, why does that seem like I'm stealing? Oh, I know, because if you take out the ION, you have Hyperforce. Well, now I know why I'm stealing other people's ideas. Hyperion Force. I like it. I think it's cool. Whatever. We can change stuff. I'm open to changing these things. I'm open to listening to other people's input. I'm going to check and make sure that that I haven't missed somebody signing on to talk with me. So somebody did ask me what's required. In the Power Rangers Hyperforce Discord. Alright, so I'm going to say right now, if you're in Discord or if you're on Facebook, but you're not on the other, I would ask you to join Discord. Yes, the Facebook group is very active, and I have put a document there so that people can archive their RPG groups, because there was a lot of interest. A lot of interest. But I would say that it's more important for us to use Discord. I think it's the best method of doing voice chat that we've used, and we've tested a lot of them. And Roll20.net is going to be the tabletop. Here's the thing. In order to use Roll20, you have to make a username, a profile. It doesn't have to include much. And then once you're a member on there, you can join any Roll20 table for any campaign that somebody opens up to you. But along with that, it will allow you to post information about your character onto a sheet that's on this table that everyone can view. The other thing is I make sure that all of our character sheets and any important, they call them handouts on here, basically any document that has important information, I'll make sure that all of those are available to your journal so that you can actually, the player journal, which is something that you can view offline, or online, off of the tabletop. So, and every once in a while you'll hear me give a little bit Kimberly about things. So that's how we're gonna do this. She doesn't have the thick Brooklyn, but she's very, she's just got a very different way of talking. Yeah, and so all of the sounds that are happening in the background, that's all from Tabletop Audio. It's actually my Starfinder playlist. So it's all spacey kind of things. Orbital Platform and Orbital Promenade are really great. and I know this is really boring listening to me type. I think I'm gonna. It's 7:30 right now. I definitely don't want to mess up too much of Hyper RPG stuff. I'm sorry. It's 7:30 Eastern time. I'm Eastern time over here in Michigan. So I'm 3 hours behind Hyper RPG Pacific time. Um, And, okay, so I said I'm using Roll20.net tabletop to run the campaign and archive relevant information, just like I shared with you guys. We're using the Discord channel here to do voice chat, and as I said before, I prefer the Discord voice chat over the Roll20 internal video and voice. You can do video and voice on Roll20. It's just that my laptop always heats up extensively when I do that, and I don't like that. And players have shown interest on the Facebook Hyperforce fan club group, but I don't think it's necessary to join that, as I just said. And mostly I just want this to be open to the thumpers and fans of Hyperforce. So I've said what I needed to say. I really have. The only other thing is, in the journal, in the handouts section, there is a handout where I've only put the most minimal amount of information. I haven't even formatted anything, even though I probably should. And I will fill in more information. Now that I have people who have actually joined me on the table and have joined me in chat, and I've made one full recording for anybody who has missed it, I will do a much better job now of filling in bits of information where it will help people create their characters a little bit better. Most of everything that I've said on this recording is going to be applicable. So the big thing is, I encourage anybody who wants to play in this to come up with ideas of their own and put those ideas on the table, because I will try to incorporate as many of them as possible. It's just like with Hyper RPG's shows. They try to incorporate as many of your ideas as they can within reason. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to build this setting out from the bottom up using player input. I'll establish a little bit of a baseline for everybody, and we'll develop it. You know, we, not just me, we can develop it together. And I think that that's a really good way of creating the setup for one of the two concepts that this could be for. The one concept that is inherently mine is called Journey to the Beastlands. I mentioned earlier how it's going to be about, you know, we're from this universe that's just a little more like the Ranger Sentai universe. It's not exactly, it's not Earth, it's ours, it's a little different. But from that, a group is going to go to this other dimension, to this other zone, and their storyline will split from the others. So we're splitting the party at that point. And then any of the characters that are left behind in the home setting, in this home universe that we create. That will be the other concept, the sort of Super Sentai Guardians of the Cosmos, Guardians of the Multiverse, right? Because all of those ideas fit in with Hyperforce, and um, I haven't seen Time Force, but knowing what I know about Hyperforce and how it relates, I would say it's going to be very similar to Time Force um, series in in the sense that the culture, the civilization that they talk about at the very beginning of Hyperforce in episode one, it's going to be very similar, not the same, but very similar, but just not Earth, just not based on Earth. We've done Earth. Trust me when I say that Earth is really boring to me now. Take that however you want. um, okay, so I don't have anybody else joining me on the Discord voice chat, so I'm going to log off of the Discord voice chat, and I'm going to post that I've logged off of there, and I'm going to make sure that the table link is available somewhere somehow. I don't think I just want. No, you know what? I'll just post it in the Thumper Discord. It'll be fine. I don't think it hasn't been improperly shared yet, so we should be fine. All right, log in off of that. I know this is super boring. I'm just about to end this up, finish this video, and shove it all down. I'm just responding to people that actually mentioned, like, oh my gosh, today it was a thing. No, it's all right. It's fine. Everything's fine. You're totally okay. If you're still coming up with ideas, go ahead. Whenever you can, just write them down somewhere. Just write them all down, because the more that you record and archive for yourself, the better you're going to be. The more ideas that will be implemented. It's fine. And my bird says, which means everything's good. All right. I think it's time for me to shut this recording down now. Yep, I think that's what we're gonna do. It's a little bit earlier than what I would like. I normally would like to go as close up to 9 o'clock as possible, but for right now, I want to make sure that there's a video worth sharing with people. So that's the deal. I'm going to stop this recording right now. I'm going to answer a couple more questions on the Discord. Hopefully it won't be anything new. And I hope to see everybody again soon. For right now, I'm going to stick with Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. Pacific, so Hyper RPG time. And we'll go for 3 hours is what I'm going to schedule for, so that we end at 9 o'clock when Hyperforce would normally be starting up. That way I don't step on anybody's toes at Hyper RPG. Not that it's the biggest deal in the world, but just cause. Alright, I love you all. Have a wonderful night.